Has the madness begun? Did the madness happen? Or did I miss it? I don't know. Let's talk about it. This is SheKnowsArsenal. Let's go. Hey guys, welcome to SheKnowsArsenal. My name is Jessica. I'm your host. You can follow me on Twitter at JessinoTweets and at SheKnowsArsenal as well. We're here. We're at deadline day. This is your deadline day stream. I have to be honest, you guys, I'll probably only be on here for an hour or so because we're not going to have much to talk about. I don't know who needs to say this, but I mean, told you so. I was, spoken to quite angrily by quite a few Arsenal fans who felt like I was just being negative about the window. And of course, we're going to sign someone, and there's just no way that you would, get rid of all of these players and not sign somebody. Newsflash, you are an Arsenal fan. Like, you should know what this club is all about. And I'm not trying to be negative. I'm being realistic. We were never going to sign anybody. There was no madness coming. And the more I think about it, the more I just believe that, the club just is ran by amateurs. And so we're getting amateur results. A lot of this just goes back to having two inexperienced individuals running a club that is in a massive rebuild, and their inexperience and inadequacy continues to bite us in the ass. And it feels negative because people only want to hear positive things. And I'm always here for positive. I'm always here for, we're moving in the right direction. And the best thing about what has happened over the last year or so is that we have good players, good young players that we can rebuild with. And anybody who would, like, if we needed to remove Adu and Arteta, somebody would want to take this project on because we have owners that are willing to at least spend some money. And if it can be directed in the right places, this could be a very attractive project. But until we have the right butts in the right seats, I think we're going to have some of these bumps in the road and these, one step forward, 3 step back, like this kind of stuff. And so with Adu and Arteta, I think it's two separate things. But let's just get to the news. Like, there really isn't much news. There's been a lot of flip-flopping and back and forth, and honestly, embarrassing news surrounding Aubameyang going to Barcelona today. Apparently, he was there to, try to make the deal go over the line. And they're having issues with the salary. Newsflash, that was always going to be an issue. When we re-signed him on big money, we were always going to be in a position where if we needed to move him on, it would be next to impossible. And that is exactly what's happening. He wants to push through the move. Arsenal apparently had no idea that he was going to Barcelona to do this. Barcelona didn't really know. And they're having issues like coming to some agreement about the money and how it will be structured. And so at the moment, it feels like the deal has fallen through. And so now we're in a position where we had several opportunities to sell Eddie Nketiah. We will not sell him. I know we won't go back to Newcastle and say, hey, let's do a deal. Because if you have Aubameyang and Lacazette, you don't need Nketiah. And Newcastle were willing to give us $9 million for him. Come on, get something done. Be proactive. And this all goes kind of back to Arteta's heavy-handedness. And, it says a lot that Aubameyang was flying to Barcelona, without anybody really knowing about it, to try to force through a move to Barcelona when allegedly he was willing to take a huge pay cut to do so. It's an issue and an ongoing pattern that we have big players on big money running from the club and forcing their way out. Willian just did it. Aubameyang is doing it. And although I see where they had their own culpability in each situation, I just think when you have big money players running from the club, you literally have to look at why this is happening. And it's okay to be heavy handed if you have the money and the resources to replace that resource. Like, it's an asset. Aubameyang is an asset, whether he's in form or not. He is an asset, and he's not my favorite player. I think he has fallen off. I think he has his own culpability. But when you don't have a lot to work with, if you're heavy handed, you have to be 100% sure that you can replace that asset. Because as much as Aubameyang has kind of fallen off this season and last season, he's still probably our best striker. And if you could get him into some vein of form, you might be able to get 5 to 10 goals from him at the back end of the season. So I don't know what happened, but I'm going to give you guys a scenario and you can let me know if you think that this is potentially what happened. Edu was overconfident about his ability to get the Vlahovic deal done. He told Arteta that he would have a midfielder and a striker there for him, because at the beginning of the window, if you go back to Arteta's statement, he said, we know what we have to do. We'll be active in the market, and was seemingly letting us know that we will be bringing players in. Edu, we know, was prioritizing Vlahovic as well as Artur, and we made moves to remove players from the squad with the idea that these two players were going to come in. And when they didn't come to fruition, we panicked. And we had already kind of set things in motion for Aubameyang to leave, and for us to omit him from the squad. And now things have fallen apart. And Arteta's heavy-handedness was something that he felt comfortable doing because he thought he would have the resources to replace. Then he flies to wherever the fuck they were at in the US and to go beg the Cronkies for more money. And they probably said, no, we've given you a lot of money over the summer. Now you're asking us to replace a striker that you asked us to put on 300 grand a week just 2 seasons or a year ago. Work with what you got. We gave you 50, 60 million to get Vlahovic done. That's what you have. Edu woke up this morning or yesterday morning and started calling La Liga clubs to ask them if we could take their best players mid-season on a discount. And they told us to F off. And so because of Edu being overconfident, it led to Arteta being overconfident. And now we're sitting here with absolutely nothing. And now, I mean, if Aubameyang has to come back, I'm sorry, like, this is going to be that time where I just believe Arteta, if this happens, and look, things can change, and maybe Aubameyang goes to Barcelona, but as it stands, if he comes back, you cannot ostracize this man any further, because the reality is that he wants to leave, and the only way that we're going to get anything from him in the summer is if he plays for us now. The best case scenario is that you swallow your pride, you take him into the office and you say, look, I know you want to go. I know this is not where you want to be. But in order for you to get a good move in the summer, you have to play for us. Please help us get into Europe. Please help us, at least qualify for Europe. We'll play you, and try to put something together and just use him into the end of the season. It's a win-win scenario. What is not a win-win scenario is if you put him in the under 23s or you sit him on the bench and then you cause this drama in the squad that you don't need, when the team really needs to be focused on making sure that they qualify for Europe. And so I sit here feeling like this is of our own doing. We have 2 inexperienced people running a club at a very high level that don't have the experience or maybe even the ability to get this club going. And yes, they had a great summer last summer, but every window you need to be improving the squad or prepping the squad for the next move. And I get the idea that maybe, we were just trying to free up wages so that we can get into the summer and get our big targets. But you can't get your big targets if you don't make your targets in the league this season. There's no reason for us to not pull something forward if if like there's no point in looking towards the summer if you don't meet your goals now, because those opportunities will not be available to us if we're outside of Europe 2 seasons in a row. Telling you right now, it's already difficult. For first of all, we have to do a lot of selling. Arteta has to come up with spreadsheets and diagrams and all kind of stuff to try to convince players to come to Arsenal, because he has nothing on his CV of any sort of like that would give most players or really good players some solace coming to Arsenal right now. So add that to, we haven't been in Europe 2 seasons in a row, and we finished eighth and whatever. Like, it's already difficult enough as it is, and I just would have liked to see the club push things forward just a little bit, either the striker signing or the midfield signing, and just make sure that we meet our goals so that we can attract the players that we want in the summer. And I don't understand these big targets that are going to come in the summer. And I freaking guarantee you that when the transfer window closes, you'll get this big spiel from Ornstein and Chris Wheatley and everybody tomorrow, talking about how Arsenal couldn't get everything over the line because they were being really patient in their planning, and because they have this player, they'll name them too, on their wish list for the summer. We've been through this before. Where we don't get anything in the January transfer window when we really desperately need it. How many times have we missed out on our targets because we did not improve mid-season? How many times have we fallen away after January? So it's just kind of one of those things where it's like, this is a huge risk that they're taking, not getting a midfielder and a striker. And no matter how Ornstein and Chris Wheatley inevitably try to spin it to us that we're being super careful and cautious not to buy the wrong players, and we have our ideas and we have the plan for the summer, it just stinks of, we went for Vlahovic and Artur and failed, and there was no plan B. And that's just what it is. I'm going to go ahead and read out some super chats and then some of your guys' comments. CC, thank you so much for your super chat. The Truth Sets Free, thank you so much for your super chat. And The Truth Sets Free also says, it's bad when even Spurs are making moves. Loyal Arsenal supporters deserve better. And that's the thing, is other teams have improved their squad. And Manchester United didn't have to improve their squad. They just have to improve what they're doing on the pitch. Spurs improved their squad, or at least bolstered their squad, so when they get injuries, there's somebody to step in to keep the quality up. Arsenal have done nothing, so this idea that we're just going to be fine because we don't have any cups and all this kind of stuff is a fantasy. Like, it's just a fantasy. Dev M says, Abba coming back because of a failed transfer could cause some squad disharmony. It could. And that's when you bank everything on pushing them out and then somebody taking him on high wages. Come on. Like, it was always going to be difficult to shift Aubameyang once you gave him this big contract. It's like they don't think, what is the worst case scenario? It's like they never looked at the worst case scenario with Aubameyang is that he falls off a cliff and we cannot move him. What will that do for us in terms of trying to replace with a big money signing? It's like they did not anticipate him potentially falling off, and it's backfiring on us. Mr. Austin says, Jess, what's your choice of liquor after tonight? Probably won't drink tonight, but probably will just completely tune out everything about Arsenal, because I'm doing like 2 or 3 of these deadline-y type streams, and by then I won't want to hear anything about Arsenal or anything. Ethan says, realistic. I'm now fully invested in the Lady Gunners and can realistically enjoy silverware. The men just cause high blood pressure and were pear-shaped for F's sake. Top-down failure, pervasive settings. I mean, that's what this club will do to you. It'll give you the sense of apathy, where at some point, transfer windows, people will just stop caring because they'll know that we're not going to do the right things. And it just kind of the summer was one step forward, and this transfer window feels a couple steps backward. And no matter how you spin it, it's just, so I can understand that. And I'm happy some international football is coming back. The women are good. So they'll give me something else to look at, because the Arsenal men are just tragic right now. Matt G says, Aubameyang turning up late for the North London Derby. Our captain, our talisman, turned up late for the North London Derby, one of our most important games of the season. That for me is unforgivable. And I'm not saying you have to forgive him. I agree that I think that Aubameyang has his own mistakes and things to kind of contend with in terms of why he's being omitted from the squad. But this is not about forgiveness. This is about, it's the best case scenario for both parties is that we bring him, because we will not sell him. He has a whole nother year left. His contract does not expire this summer. It's the season after that. So if you want to be able to move him on, people have to see him in a good light. And seeing Aubameyang in a good light can only be good for Arsenal, who have Eddie Nketiah and Lacazette as their main strikers for the remainder of the season. So it's not about forgiving. It's about getting in that office and saying, look, this is what we need to do. We don't have to like each other, but we just need to work with each other for the next 6 months, because we're going to need every single player in the squad. We don't have very many. And if you think Saka is not going to get injured, or ESR or Martinelli, and we're not going to have to, move the squad around, like, you have another thing coming. Just because it's 17 games doesn't mean there's no COVID, there's no injuries, there's no nothing. Like, and more suspensions. He needs to use the squad, so he needs to suck it up. It's not even about it's not even about forgiving each other. It's really not. Diallo says, not going to happen, Jess. We have no idea what Abba did. It could be much worse than you think. I think the damage is done. Only divorce can fix it. Well, that's just unfortunate. It really is. If that's true, then, we have a very difficult rest of the season coming up. Let's see. Lucas says, even Burnley now did a decent move and got a Dutch striker workhorse from Bundesliga in the 90th minute of the transfer window. And I think they got him for like 15 or something. There were opportunities there. But we didn't even look at them. We wanted to make a big money signing, and we went in there all, we're going to go get Vlahovic, and, Edu got played. And so now we're sitting here with egg on our face, and there were other opportunities in the market. And that's the thing, is the way they'll try to spin it is the perfect opportunity was not available. But when you see other teams in the league making, loan moves for Donny van der Beek and loan moves for, other players, and being able to bring in strikers for 15 million, and even West Ham are bidding for Darwin Nunez, it's all a joke. Like, we just weren't prepared. We weren't prepared and ready to maneuver in this window, because we thought we had Vlahovic and Artur in the bag, and we didn't. And then Edu, I don't know, he just fell off his bike and is just sitting there on the side of the road now, just like, I don't know. He's been frozen. Let's see. Tomo says, you all need to understand that Arsenal is high-rated clubs who needs not just good players, they need great players, but great players don't want to play just League Cups, and that's the main problem. I mean, that's why you kind of have to, there has to be some sort of way to paper over the cracks until the summer window to ensure that you make it into the top 6, and that's what I'm saying. People are saying, well, top 4 was on the cards. I'm not even looking at top 4. Top 4 is not a thing. It's not. Like, top 6 is under threat right now. Just because we're Arsenal doesn't mean we have a divine right to be there. And we're barely there now, hanging on. So, like, there has to be a way to this is where the strength of your director of football's experience and his connections and his relationships come in handy for you. Because if he had better connections, he could have probably found better players to bring in, or easier deals to finesse than Artur on an 18-month loan. That was his only option for us. Our only option to bolster the midfield was to bring in 135 grand a week Artur on an 18-month loan. That is the strength of our director of football's like network. And that's just not good enough. And because we can't take advantage of these issues in the market, or like we're not able to solve our issues with opportunities in the market. And opportunities are what you like, opportunities only present themselves if you have the right people in place to give them to you. And I just don't think Adu has the right people around him. There was a rumor, and it may be just a rumor, but we were going to sign Umtiti in this window. Umtiti. And the only reason why we didn't sign him is because he rolled his ankle in like his last training, in last training for Barcelona. So essentially, we're going to take a dead player from Barcelona, and we also loaned out Pablo Mari, being arrogant, thinking that we had that deal done. That is Adu in a nutshell. Like, it's just, but we just never, there was no, it's not just, okay, get dead players or get your main targets. There's something in between that you can use to get you over the hump during a difficult point in the season. And all we seem to do is be able to either do release clauses or dead players on loan. Nothing in between. The True Gunners TV, thank you so much for your super chat, says, I have mixed feelings over this. Gutted we've not improved our squad, but also glad because maybe people will wake up and realize the true issues at our club and sack them both and move on, stop time wasting. Well, the reality is that they don't seem like they're in any sort of rush to. The reason why Adu and Arteta can make these heavy-handed decisions and be arrogant in the market and not improve the squad is because they're under no threat. And that comes from the Kroenkes. So this all stems back to the ownership, really. Let's see. Saida says, the club not signing any players this window just tells me that their target isn't to finish in the top four. This club really lacks ambition. I mean, Adu wouldn't even say it out loud what our ambitions actually were. It took until Odegaard to speak up and actually said that qualifying for Europe is their target and top four is the dream. So the club feel like they need to qualify for Europe, and they do. They absolutely have to. There is no finishing in 7th or 8th. You do that, they need to clean house and start over again. And I'm telling you, the only thing that I like about what we've done is we've gotten rid of a lot of the dead wood, and we have a group of young players that any manager and any DOF would want to take over right now. So if we wanted to get rid of those two, we could, and somebody would actually want to take this project on. It's attractive because of the players that we have, and for no other reason. Everything else is just, it's mad. Like, it really is. Agoro says, I agree with you. The coach should not just necessarily be in good terms with Abba, but we need someone who can finish for us. It's really, everything is so black and white with this club. It's either loan with, when we want to bring players in, it's either release clause and big fee, or loan, straight loan. Or when we want to sell players, it's either for nothing or nothing. Like, everything is just, you're either in the squad or you're out. You either are best friends with Aubameyang or you hate him. There just has to be a way to manage this where it doesn't have to be so black and white, in and out, all great or all bad. Like, there has to be an in between, and it just feels like we're not getting it right now. It's crazy. And I get this whole wage bill reduction thing, but I feel like that was the main thing for the Kroenkes, is they made that one statement a while back that we were on a Champions League wage bill, but we're a Europa League team. And they have been since then trying to get us on a mid-table wage bill, and they have successfully done that. And so they're probably freaking comfortable right now. And the moment that they get rid of Aubameyang and Lacazette, I'm sure they will jump for joy, because I think, I don't know, I think that was the only thing that they were really prepared to do in this window. I don't get how do you go from Vlahovic and Artur to nothing? It's crazy. I know they just wanted to get that KSC, they wanted that wage bill down. Lori Laker says, there's no flex or compromise for character or personalities. I get that. I do. But at what point are we cutting off our nose to spite our own face? I think that, like, it's kind of what I said earlier, and maybe it's because Arteta is is kind of deluded by what he went through with Man City, but Pep can be heavy-handed with his players because he knows there's another one that can come in. They have tons of high-quality players on the bench, and then if for some reason they need to sell somebody, they'll bring him in more quality. So he doesn't really have to worry about that aspect. At Arsenal, the resources are so much less and they're not as good. And so if you're going to be heavy-handed like that, you have to make sure that one, you can coach what you already have to do just as good, if not better, or you need to know for sure that you're going to get somebody to replace that person that you're being heavy-handed with. So in a couple of weeks, we're not looking like, why are we not using this guy? The same thing happened with Ozil. We omitted him from the squad, and then we didn't get a war. And then we didn't have a single creative midfielder in that team until Emil Smith Rowe came into the side in December. And it basically killed off our season, because Adu couldn't get a war over the line and ended up having to go to Atletico and get Thomas Partey. This season, it's, I mean, heavy-handed with aubameyang, going into the transfer window, thought it was okay to omit him from the squad because they thought they were going to be able to get Vlahovic, which was never happening. And now he's probably going to have to come back into the squad, or we're going to cause more drama by not bringing him into the squad when we desperately need somebody to score. And I'm telling you, if you don't, and the next game we play, Lacazette is missing sitters again, or Eddie Nketiah is playing matches and we lose, it's gonna be carnage. It's gonna be carnage. So I hope they're ready for that. Let's see. Joshua says if Gabriel and White get injured, Holding is the only one left. I mean, that's because they thought they were getting Umtiti in. I mean, it's been revealed that we thought we were going to be able to get a midfielder, a striker, and a center back. And so, of course, Arteta was super confident at the beginning of the window and talking about we know what we're going to do and all of this kind of stuff. And we were letting people go, and it was cool letting Pablo Mari go and whatever, letting Chambers go. Now, none of that has happened. And we're sitting here with, 19 players in the squad? 19? That's on them. That's on them. The Truth Says Free says it's so disrespectful of the owner on the day of the Rams make the Super Bowl. You can see where his focus is, and it's not Arsenal, but we know that. I mean, the lengths that they go to make sure that the Rams are competitive and really good is in stark contrast to what goes on at Arsenal. And so we know that their business model for the Rams is basically be Man City, but what it is for Arsenal is just try to keep that wage bill down, get young players, and probably go into that Dortmund model or that Ajax model where we just have young players that we sell high and just stay at the upper mid-table and always have the fans hoping that we're going to at some point reach top 4 and get close and then fail and start over, close and fail and start over. I mean, it's just I did not see them push this window. They didn't make me believe. They did not. So let's see. You guys, I really doubt that there's anything happening in this window. So if you guys see anything, any updates, like let me know, but I'm not even looking anymore. I have to be honest. Gamer says they didn't buy Arsenal for trophies, disgrace. I mean, that's exactly what it is, isn't it? They don't care. Hakuna Matata says Dembele to Chelsea, 99% on. I mean, if that were to happen, then maybe Aubameyang could go there. But again, then we don't have a striker, and so what do you do then? We have, what is it, like 4 hours left? Nothing is happening. The worst part is I'm going to have this conversation like 3 or 4 times today. So, and we're not talking about players or anything. Every conversation is going to be about how bad this window is. And the worst part about it is just it'd be different if we just, from the beginning, they said if we don't get Vlahovic in, then there probably won't be anybody coming in this window. and then we would have just known and we would have just went about our day. But because we've been kind of just out here in the streets pretending like we're doing things, but we're really not able to get anything over the line, now it's even more embarrassing. And so you have everybody taking shots at us. Aubameyang is flying to Barcelona to try to force a move. Like it's just yeah. After the summer window and the beginning of the season, seeming to go well, January plus this window has really just turned the fan base on its head. And of course, I do think that the team will win some games and will be all right. But we definitely are not going to hit our targets. I would put money on it at this point. The Truth Sets Free says Kroenke picks up Von Miller and Odell Beckham for Rams last 2 months. Those superstars were where all the money went, penny pinching Arsenal spot on. I mean, we know what they really care about. They don't, if they cared about Arsenal, we wouldn't be doing this. Lori Laker says number one targets are great, and we clearly tried, but once that was non-starter, as it was from the first few days of smoke, we needed to pivot and we didn't. It's mad and so foolish. And there were tons of midfielders that we could have looked at to bring in on loan beyond our tour. So I'm not really buying this whole like, well, we need to be super, super careful about the loans because the loans have burned us in the past. Aren't they meant to have good talent ID? Like, aren't they meant to know who to bring in and who not to? I mean, Ceballos was good the first season, but they didn't bring him in, but they re-signed him for the second season. So this whole loans have burned us in the past. You can't for 1 minute say, believe in Edu and Arteta, their talent ID is spot on, but then they can't find a single loan that can just help us over the hump in midfield. How many loan midfield signings have been made in this window by teams in the Premier League? There has to be at least 6, 7. And we didn't look at any of those because for some reason our tour was the only player that we were willing to take on loan. It just doesn't make sense. And then I get the Bruno Guimaraes thing. He may not have been our number one target, but he was a target. And now he's at Newcastle. And I swear if somebody buys Basuma in these last hours of the window and it's not Arsenal, I'm done. I'm done. We don't have to have our number one targets. We just need to get one of our targets. That's why you have a list. You know, it's always just, and I don't believe the number one target hype. I think that's something that fans have made up in order to save face in this window and push the can down the road to the summer window. Like we have this big list of number one targets that we're really looking at. When we get to the summer, they will also be talking about having the need to sell to buy as well. We're not going to go straight into that window and get business done. It'll be the same merry-go-round where we need to sell Xhaka and Aubameyang and Bellerin and Torreira before we can buy anybody. I don't want to hear it. Top Bins says, Jess, this is messy. Surely bring Aubameyang back undermines Arteta's authority. Would the Kroenkes do that to him? But what they've been doing isn't working. You know, it has, but it hasn't. You know, allowing him to make these heavy-handed decisions and then come back in a couple of months asking for more money. They need to maybe slow down on. I mean, they backed him. As far as I'm concerned, since Arteta has been here, he has been backed. And so he needs to coach this team into the top 6. And so until he does that, he shouldn't get another dime, as far as I'm concerned. Like, they have backed him. You know, he asked for Aubameyang to be re-signed. Aubameyang was re-signed under his, you know, he signed on the line as well. Like, you know, and he talked it up too. So as far as I'm concerned, he needs to figure out how to make Lacazette, Aubameyang, and Nketiah work for the rest of the season. He has to hope that his choices to keep Xhaka in this side, even though we could have sold him last season, pay off. At this point, he just needs to coach this team into top 6, and they need to stop giving him money. Like, if he flew all the way out to wherever they were at, Colorado or whatever, and told him no, that was probably the best thing that they could have done. Because this man, like, I like Arteta. He has good ideas, and I think he's a good coach. But the management of the squad is what he is lacking. And so we always think we need new players. But if he could just manage the squad a little bit better, especially the players that maybe he doesn't know if he wants, or maybe you're not good enough, and just manage them a little bit better, then we wouldn't be in these situations all the time. We're in these situations constantly under him, and it's fatiguing. Like, I'm tired. Like, I'm tired of this. I'm done. I'm done. Let's see. Alejandro says we need to learn to be ruthless and move on players who aren't doing it for us game in and game out. I mean, it's hard to do that because when you manage the squad in such a way where, it's so they're either in your plans or not, teams are not desperate to buy players that nobody wants. And then also you weaken your negotiating hand when somebody knows you're desperate to get rid of them. So that is kind of like the issue that Arteta has right now, is that the way he handles certain players, it diminishes their value and weakens our negotiating hand because people know we do not want them. And so you can't be ruthless. You really can't. Like, this whole being ruthless thing is you kind of have to play the game a little bit so that people will be like, oh, they're still a good player, probably want them, whatever. There are several players that I just feel like Ainsley Maitland-Niles is one of them. In Ketia, we probably could have managed that a little bit better and sold him a lot sooner. And Willock, we did get some money for, but there's just players slipping through the cracks here and there where we're just not getting anything for them. And it's not like we won't get anything for Pepe the way he's being managed at the moment, because he looks like somebody that Arteta has made almost like he can't help us at all. And that's an issue, and as a fan, it's not my job to like manage the squad. I don't think Pepe is that great of a player. But when if you can put your thinking cap on just for a second, is it better for people to think that he is an asset that we want? So people only want things that other people want. Or we act like he's unusable and then try to shuffle him out the back door. Nobody's going to want that. We're the only one who goes digging around in people's bins, so it's not my job to manage the squad. That is their job, and they're not doing a good job of it. And so we're seeing that happen, and I get that we need to get rid of Deadwood, but can we make sure that we have replacements and enough team and all that kind of stuff before we do it? There's just so many things. Tomorrow, the rating of the transfer window is going to be very, very interesting. So tomorrow we'll be rating the transfer window and going through it and really just really getting down to the nitty gritty of it all. And then sometime at the back end of this week, I'll let you know. It'll either be on Wednesday or Thursday. I'll be on here with Sophie from the Highbury squad to do a mid-season review. And that's where we'll be kind of reviewing our signings from the summer, and reviewing Arteta and Adu and all that kind of stuff. So there will be some great content coming out for you guys. The Truth Sets Free says, this is for the CBD oil needed to deal with this dross. Thank you so much. Yeah, I need to go ahead and get that as well. That's the only way I can make it through. But I hate to say it, this is my job, and I love Arsenal to death. I do. But I just feel like I'm losing that, and maybe it's because we need to play games and win some games, but January has been very draining, and then going into the window as well, and just feeling like we were up there after Man City and then feeling like we're at the bottom now, just kind of it makes me want to check out a little bit. Just gotta be real. Elliot Roberts says Guimaraes is another Arsenal own goal due to Arteta being so smitten by Ruben Neves and Tielemans. I mean, if that is who they're really looking at, who's to say that we'll actually be able to get either of them next summer if we don't have Europe or we don't make Champions League? Those two players in particular will have more than one suitor when they get to the summer. So I get that we probably couldn't have gotten either of them now, but we could have gotten Guimaraes, so if we get to the summer and then all of a sudden Ruben Neves is in the, could potentially go to Manchester United, he ain't coming to us. If Tielemans could potentially go to, I don't know, Liverpool, they're not coming to us, so keep it 100, Navgil says, will you be on Arsenal Vision tonight? Yes, I will be on BBC 5 Live in about 45 minutes for a couple minutes to probably talk about the devastation of this transfer window. And then I'll be on Arsenal Vision. And then depending on time, I'll be on the Football Terrace. So yeah, you'll be seeing a lot of me doing a lot of this ranting. Clement Afuko says, I didn't understand why didn't get players like Sanchez, Awar, who could make things happen in midfield, but looking at Arthur Melo at Juventus, don't want to pay these release clause of Alexander Isak. The reason why we looked at Artur instead of anybody else is because he's a Kia client. That's why. We only deal with Kia clients and Mendes clients. Our Adu doesn't have much imagination. He doesn't really have the connections and the experience to really get those signings that can really change the game for us. Or, everything is very obvious with him. Agent connections and players that he has relationships with. That is the strength of what Adu can give to Arsenal. And that's why I've been a huge proponent of if Arteta is going to be this young and inexperienced manager, then somebody above him needs to have some sort of clout and CV and can really help Arsenal. And this is where an Overmars or, somebody else could really help us out. And we're choosing to stick with Adu. And you know what? You know who I think is going to eventually end up being our DOF, who I would not be upset by this because I think he understands what the club is all about, is Per Mertesacker. And I know we like to hire from within. Arsenal are very let's just keep hiring our people. Per Mertesacker is somebody who looks like could potentially end up being a DOF and probably a better one than Adu because he understands what the club is all about, bringing in highly talented youth, growing them, from the bottom up, bringing in under the radar signings, not cutting corners with expensive dead players from other people's teams. Like that, I mean, if we couldn't get Overmars, I would look at Per Mertesacker in the next couple of years because Adu's not going to cut it. He's not going to cut it. Not at this level. Not at this level. He's not good enough. Let's see. All right. I'm trying to get to make sure. Tony says, just got in. Did I miss the pod? Have we had a proper rant session? I mean, I've been ranting the whole time, man. Like for real. So, but yeah, I still have some more time. So I want to read out more of your guys' comments. I know this is basically just a little therapy session for us. So if you guys have questions, you can put them in. Again, I'm not checking the rumors because I don't think anything is going to happen. We have about 4 hours, 3 hours left. 5 hours left in the transfer. I don't even know. I just know time is pretty much running out. So, yeah, you guys go ahead and get in the chat. Oh my goodness. What a great. So Guimaraes is not a Kia client, but Kia was acting as an intermediary on that deal. So there's that. Ozzy says, if you've been an Arsenal fan for more than a decade, no one ever comes in January. Aubameyang did, and I'm not talking, I actually didn't need a big signing. I thought we needed like a couple of loans, or if an opportunity presented itself to us where one of our targets became available in January, which they did, then we could take advantage of it. So when we were linked with Vlahovic, I thought that I was like, oh, if that's an opportunity, then we should try to get it over the line. But it became very obvious very quickly that we weren't going to be able to get it over the line. And so all I really was looking for was just a couple of loans to just get us over the hump. And in particular in midfield, because I knew the striker situation would be very difficult, especially if we couldn't get rid of Aubameyang. So I understand that we were probably never going to do big business, but to not do anything is negligent considering that we've weakened the squad. And not only that, the idea that we're not going to get a single injury for the remainder. And, when we get injuries, they come to our most important players as well. So if the idea that we're not going to get a single injury or another COVID case or another suspension in the last 17 games of the season, and we're not going to struggle because other teams have strengthened and we haven't, is a fantasy. Like, it is a fantasy. So all I was asking for was a loan signing, or at least in midfield, or a striker signing that we pushed forward a window, just to make sure that if Aubameyang left, we had somebody there that we could rely upon. And we've done none of that. And we also have turned down good money for Eddie Nketiah, so he's going to walk away for free, and he adds nothing to our squad right now. And that may sound harsh, but he doesn't. He does not guarantee a single goal in the Premier League. He's a cup player at best. So we haven't done anything in this window worthwhile. We gave away Chambers for damn near free. I mean, whoo, I'm out. Andre Zachary says, Jesse, speaking facts about Arteta. And that's the thing, is it's difficult because people are like, are you Arteta in and Arteta out? And for me, I can recognize the good that he's done, but I also recognize the inexperience that he has. So that's why it's kind of like, okay, well, if he's going to be so inexperienced, somebody around him needs to know what they're doing. And I think the most important thing is, because you're not getting rid of Josh, the next person in line would be your DOF. And a director of football would stand up to Arteta and say, you need to make Aubameyang work, because we're not going to give you more money for a striker when you just asked us maybe 12 months ago to re-sign this guy on 300 grand a week. You need to make it work. An experienced DOF doesn't come with our tour. He comes with other options for players that could help us in this window. An experienced DOF does not go into the Vlahovic negotiations knowing that it's a suicide mission. They go, especially without a plan B. An experienced DOF gives you so much more leverage, especially with the team rebuilding like Arsenal. We need somebody who knows what they're doing, and we just don't have that, and so even like an experienced DOF can help you, like, in terms of, somebody needs to have a good CV. Somebody needs to have a CV that players can look at and agents can look at and say, this is going to be a good place for my client. This is going to be a good place for my career. Arteta doesn't have that right now. And there are some people that view Arteta as like this young, innovative, genius manager. I don't think I've seen that yet. I think he could be something in the future, but right now he's just okay, but a director of football with an extensive CV can help agents influence their clients to come to Arsenal if the manager can't. And right now, nobody wants to play for Arteta and Edu, and that is hurting us, so somebody has to go. And I would not be upset if Edu didn't last, because somebody but I also am not convinced that the Cronkies would be able to hire somebody better, because whoever's better is going to cost you some money, Tony says, anyone tracking planes between London and Madrid for the last minute release clause bomb? I don't know. Ify says, do you think getting rid of Diamond Eye Mislintat was a mistake? I think he did some things that weren't great. And I think that he was at odds with Gazidis. So the structure was all wrong, but we need somebody of that quality in the back room finding us the next player before they become the big star. I think Arsenal have always been a club that have been able to identify talent and then help that talent grow and become something special. We've never really been a club that bought stars. Like, that just hasn't been our jam. And I don't think we necessarily have to buy big stars. I don't think we are a buy Vlahovic for 70 million type of club. I just don't think we're that. But we don't have we don't have anybody like Mislintat back there. We have Edu, who uses agent relationships and friendships to get deals over the line. And because we're at a certain bracket, the players that are available to us through his connections are not really that good. And so we do need somebody there that has better talent identification, that can help us find those players that are just on the cusp of becoming, somebody that could have brought us Tielemans from Monaco, and then we would have had Tielemans. Like, that level. Somebody that can negotiate maybe an award for 30 million, somebody like that. We don't have that, and it is hurting us. But Mislintat was somebody that I do think did some damage, but ultimately we never really got that level of talent identification and recruitment back. And it's shocking. It's shocking because I'm actually okay not bringing in big stars. I know we'll have to spend more money than we're used to because that's how you're going to convince players to come, and prices have went up. But ultimately, I don't think we're a 70 million for Vlahovic type of club. I think we do well in the 30 to 40 million dollar range, 20 to 40 million dollar range, and that's fine if you have the right talent ID, and we just don't have it. Let's see. Top Bins, Jess, do you believe Arteta has the required man management skills to get the likes of Auba and Pepe playing for him again? I would have to believe it, or have to see it to believe it. At this point, I believe that if Aubameyang has to come back in, I have a hard time seeing him reintegrated in and for things to run smoothly. But he has to use Pepe and Aubameyang at the back end of the season. We have thinned out the squad. We don't have a lot of options. And we know that when Lacazette goes through those moments of like inconsistency, he ain't scoring no goals and he's almost a detriment to us. So you have to have somebody else waiting in the wings to come in and step up and score those goals, because Martinelli and Saka are just young, inconsistent kids at the moment. And so I can't see it, because as of lately, or like as of ever, Arteta is the hardest hammer I can use to slam it down. That's what I'm going to do. But he's going to have to change at the back end of the season if he wants to meet his targets. And if he doesn't, I would say that he just feels so safe in his job. And I've always felt this, is that he makes decisions like this, like what he did with the bombing, like what he did with Ozil, like what he's done with Guendouzi, like what he's done with everybody that's kind of been on the outside with Saliba, everybody, because he's so safe in his job. And the Cronkies need to stop funding him and say, you need to deal with what we got. This is what you need to make regardless. And if you don't, it's your decisions that have led to you not making it to the top 6. And so you have to go. There has to be some sort of like, we're cutting you off, because he can't just keep getting more money and we're not getting anything out of it. That's all I'm saying, and that doesn't mean that I don't think that Arteta has talent as a coach, but our Arsenal is such a big rebuild that I just feel like, he just is probably out of his depth. But there you go. Let's see. The main Anon says, I would have been more upset if we activated Isak's release clause. I mean, does anybody feel that way? That, is there anybody in the chat box that feels like we made the right decision by not getting anybody and sticking with the squad that we have, because there'll be better options in the summer and Isak wasn't the right player to go after? Does anybody feel that way? Does anybody feel that way? Because I know there's a lot of people that have kind of started this, it's okay because we're going to be going after better players in the summer. Dominic Calvert-Lewin is now out the question. Frank Lampard being there means that he will stay. He's going to keep all of his English players and build a little mini Chelsea there. There's no way Dominic Calvert-Lewin is leaving Everton at this point. They won't do it, not with signing a new manager. Isak will have tons of options in the summer. So, who are going to be these new, options that are just going to pop up in the summer? I'm kind of confused. I'll just check while you guys are putting your answers in there. I'm just going to check Twitter and see if anything is happening. I'm sure it's not. Yeah, I see the tweets. It's understandable not to want new players. Arsenal have made clear to Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang a few minutes ago that they have no intention to collaborate or pay part of his salary for Barcelona. It's up to Barca and Aubameyang to find a solution, or it's collapsed, and Dembele is not going to Arsenal. That's obvious. Arsenal communicated to the player, yeah. So they're like, if you want to go there, you need to figure it out. And so he's probably there, basically asking to play for free. Sucks. This is so sucky. So sucky. Okay. So sucky. All right. Let's see. Gamer says Isak's release clause was overpriced. Dari says, yup. Polymation says Isak is not worth his release clause, not being negative. Fair enough. It would have been expensive, really. I've spoken about the release clause being a lot, but that's poor planning leads you to having to make expensive decisions, expensive risks, or you choose not to do anything. And so looks like we've chosen to do nothing. So there you go. Craig Malloy says just the squad wasn't good enough in the first place. It's even worse now. I mean, I thought our ceiling was probably top 5 at the beginning of the season, and then at our worst, we're probably a 7th, 8th place. And we saw what our worst looked like. Our worst really was January, where we had a couple of players out, and all of a sudden we couldn't string a couple passes together. We couldn't beat Nottingham Forest. We couldn't beat Burnley at home. So yeah, like, unless we're perfect, we're going to miss out on our targets. I'm telling you, because other teams have strengthened. We haven't. We've weakened our squad just a little bit. We don't have a striker, and we're basically banking our season on kids, Lacazette being consistent, and Xhaka not getting sent off. That's it. Oh, and Thomas Partey not rolling his ankle. So there you go. Stuart says missed opportunity. I remember you said I would have egg on my face. I don't think I do. There you go. Michael G says just 2 players needed, striker and center midfield. Doesn't look like we're getting either. Mr. Austin says we should have got Wood from Bundesliga. Can't believe Burnley got him. I mean, good players have went to the Premier League and went to lesser teams, and we didn't even look at them. I would have probably taken Workhorse because he would have cost like 15 million or something like that, and he could have easily become an option in the summer. In terms of, like, we could have still brought in another striker and had him as a backup, because newsflash, we're going to lose probably 3 strikers in the summer if Aubameyang leaves. So we could have gotten him. Like, we could have figured out something, but for us, it's either dead player or super expensive option. Like, there's nothing in between. It's just so. James says Isak has 4 non-penalty goals this season. Don't need another striker who can't score. Fair enough. C. Wilder says wasn't the party release clause paid really, really late in the day, but the process started early on in the day. So essentially we started hearing about it around noon my time. So noon my time, was it noon? Because I think I stayed up late and early into the morning, went to sleep, and then woke up. It might have been noon-ish. And we knew that everything had kind of been set in motion. Right now it's almost 10 p.m. or 10 a.m. my time. So if we were going to do the release clause, we would have had to have started the process like already. And things right now just seem like, because we don't know what's going on with Aubameyang, everything is on pause. And I just don't think we're prepared to pay the release clause. I don't think we are for Isak for several reasons, because we don't want to. Maybe we haven't been, Arteta didn't get the green light from the Cronkies, and I'm not sure that the club is sold on paying that release clause for him. Diker Sports says, Isak, I wanted him from last year. I mean, yeah, he had a much better season last season. I think that his form is more indicative of the struggles that Real Sociedad are having creating chances than him being a bad player. But I hear that when you look at a striker, you're going to pay that amount, you want to see the goals there. So I get that. Polynation is saying that Isak is worth closer to 45 million. So, I mean, if you don't want to pay that, which it looks like we don't, then try to reintegrate Aubameyang and see if he can get you 10 goals at the back end of the season. I mean, he probably could if you just said, look, we just need you and you need us. So, I mean, but it just seems like we're just so far away from that. Victory, thank you so much for your super chat. I really appreciate it. Next time, put a comment or something in there. Let's see. Danny Blaine says, we need the right players. I don't agree with panic buying to keep the fans happy. We will be recharged and go again after the break in the sun. I hope so. You know why I say that, Danny, is because that's the only hope that we have, is that it was just a blip. January was a blip. They were tired. And when they come back, they'll be completely different, and we'll see the form from December, because they kind of need to be the team from December in order for us to get anything from this season. And so I'm hoping that what you're saying is true, because we're having this conversation in our group chat, and I expressed some concerns about going the entirety of January without winning a game, going into the January transfer window and doing nothing, and then on like the 10th of February going to Wolves and not getting three points. And I got some pushback about, well, Wolves is a difficult match and it's away from home. And I'm like, well, we dropped the points against Burnley, so we need to make them up somewhere. Burnley was supposed to be a guaranteed 3 points, and we only got one. So we can't really go to Wolves and say, okay, well, because they're a difficult team, that we don't like, it's okay to just draw the match. And so for me, I just feel this weird feeling of we're going to struggle at the back end of the season. And it will take a lot to change my mind, because the Wolves match is not one that Arsenal fans seem to be very confident that we're going to win. And that's scary, because if you think that we're a top 6 team, games like Wolves away, we need to come out with 3 points. Games against a Burnley at home, even with a squad that's not perfect, you should come out with 3 points. The reason why we didn't come out with 3 points against Burnley was because the striker situation is not sorted. The midfield situation is not sorted. So it's the back end of the season is going to be difficult. That's it. Like, it just is. It's not going to be straightforward. The players, I mean, we have to basically hope that these young players carry us, and we know they're inconsistent, and that's not on them. It's really not. Let's see. Got another super chat here from Pascanel. Says, making a bad decision is better than no decision at all. We're in the mud. Do you guys believe that? Do you think that making a bad decision is better than no decision? I mean, there has been kind of people saying, well, the reason why we're in this position and we can't take advantage and we can't do this and we can't do that is because of all the bad decisions that we've made in the past. But not being able to get a striker now is not because we bought Aubameyang, at all. It's because we re-signed him on the new deal, and we shouldn't have done that in hindsight. So sometimes I think we're over-indexing this whole bad decisions and all that kind of stuff. We could have sold some of these players a lot earlier. Those were the bad decisions, but bringing them in the first place wasn't always the bad decision. And so I do think that we're over-indexing this whole, well, I don't want to make any panic buys. We're not saying it's either panic buy or it's not just panic buy or number one signing. There are things in between as well. So yeah. Let's see. But let's see. Gamer says we threw away 2 cup competitions because of poor decisions. Sefton L. Cumming says the reality is that the side that we are in direct competition for top 4 are strengthening. Also, it seems like we are at our peak in these current players, and other teams can still improve. And that's why, like, as bad of a season as United have supposedly had, and as good of a season we're having, they are above us, and I know that we have a game in hand, but we know games in hand don't always equal 3 points in the bag. And so Think about that for a second. They don't even have to play well. Spurs and Man United don't have to play well to get 3 points. We have to play damn near perfect to get 3 points. So the margin for error for us is so tiny. And we're leaving it up to chance by not bringing in players that can bolster the squad to ensure that the margins go in our favor. And the margins have never went in our favor. The story of Arteta at Arsenal has been margins not going in our favor. So I don't know why we go into the back end of the season feeling like they will all of a sudden. The other teams are getting better. They're coming into form, and we have dropped off in January. So our only hope is that we become the team from December for the rest of the season. Now, the other aspect that wasn't there before that's there now is now it's the business part of the season. We are under pressure and we need to win games. We've had 2 opportunities to put daylight in between us and the other teams fighting for top 4, and we failed both times. One time against Man City and the second time against Burnley. So as we get to the back end of the season, we're going to be under more pressure. And so that element added to the fact that we have very little margin for error, for me, doesn't really spell successful season for Arsenal. It spells, oh, we're only 2 points away from the top 4. We're 4 points away from the top 4. We're 6 points away from the top 4. We can still fight. This January transfer window was an opportunity to make sure that we stayed in the mix. And if we're fighting for top 4, then we're likely to finish in the top 6. If we start to look at top 6 as our option or like our goal, we might not finish anywhere near there. And so it's a slippery slope. It's a slippery slope. Rida Boy says, and thank you for your super chat, says, no club in the world has had a worse window than us. I have no laugh, so I won't cry. Yeah, I mean, it's also been like a banterous window where the Vlahovic thing has been thrown in our face. The Guimaraes thing has been thrown in our face. The Aubameyang thing is becoming more of like a joke as well. So the fact that we haven't, I mean, Spurs were laughed at the beginning of the window, but they turned around and made 2 signings. So you can't really laugh at them anymore. But we're going to feel like we're going to feel this for a while, you know, because people were waiting for us to get off of our high horse and to fall down a little bit. And we have done it. Good job. Good job. King Panda says maybe the plan was to get players out in January and sign in the summer. I mean, a lot of people are saying that. But the thing is that I'm not holding my breath, because when we get to the summer and we're wondering why we haven't made signings quickly, it'll be because we still have to sell to buy. They're still going to tell us that we need to sell Aubameyang. We need to sell Xhaka. We need to sell Bellerin and Torreira. And all these players that are on loan, a lot of them are coming back here. You know, they'll be back. So that's why I'm kind of like, I don't know about all this. Oh, so the summer is just going to be this great summer where we're going to buy our big targets, and it's going to be amazing, because we're still going to have to sell these players to do anything, and we don't sell well. And so they have to sell Xhaka, and they didn't want to sell him for 15 million. Do you think we were being offered 15 million from Roma to buy Granit Xhaka, or 12 million or something like that? And that was his best season for Arsenal. Do you think they're going to offer us more this season after the season that he's had, where he's basically been unavailable? Probably not. And also, we need to sell him in order to bring in another midfielder, but because for some reason Arsenal don't like to have more than 2 starting midfielders available to them. They want to have 2 starters and then backups that are obvious backups. So when you look at that, Xhaka and Aubameyang will still be blocking our window in the summer. So I'm not about to get all hyped, because I know Ornstein and Gunnar Blog and them are going to come out after this window and give us all these targets that we're going after in the summer to try to appease us and kick the can down the road for the summer. And I'm not buying it this time. I need to see it. The Truth Sets Free says, what TV shows are you an analyst on today? Thank you so much for your super chat as well. Do you want supporters from your channel there like I do at Terrace for you? Big up, Terry, by the way. Yeah, like Arsenal Vision at 7 p.m. UK time. And then I will hopefully be on the terrace later. It depends on when the Arsenal Vision stream ends. And I'm pretty sure we won't have a signing to talk about. So we'll see how long, but hopefully Arsenal Vision and the terrace. And thank you so much for all your support and the 400 of you guys watching. I know that this is difficult. You guys might not like what I'm saying, but I do appreciate you guys getting into the chat box and let me know your guys' feelings and supporting the channel and just getting your feelings out. Like, I like the difference of opinions here, and that's perfectly fine. But make sure you do like the video and subscribe to the channel and all of that. I really do appreciate it. And the truth sets free. Thank you so much for your kind super chats and all of your support. I really appreciate that. Let's see. Ivy says, I love Arsenal Vision. They're awesome as well. We'll be there. Yeah, Arsenal Vision is, for me, the best Arsenal related channel / podcast that's out there. They're always consistent, putting out great content, good, different and diverse are the same, diverse opinions, and very in-depth and well thought out. And so I feel very lucky to be a part of it. So hopefully I won't ruin it with my my ranting. Tony says the Amazon doc is going to be great. Either we get the last minute bomb or Adu gets thrown into a volcano. I mean, that episode is going to be very interesting because I want to see how they rationalize this in their head. I really do. Tushima says the best chance for top 4 gone now. Man United, etc. won't be this poor next season. Yeah, they won't. They won't. This was a good opportunity, but apparently these 3 big signings that we're going to be getting in the window, in the next window, will help us out. So we'll see. I just don't want to even talk about the summer window because people want us to start envisioning the future when the present is not really convincing me. So I need to see us actually win some games, and we need to win both of our games in February. I feel like we need to restart our engine because it just feels, and that feels like that in the fan base. The team may not feel that way, but damn, it feels dreary and cold and gloomy right now in the Arsenal fan base. Ron Canton says choice of drink tonight has to be bitter. I like that. Danny Blaine says, I'm pleased that Murata turned us down. He's a fairy in the Prem. Yeah, I mean, I'm not necessarily devastated that he's not coming. A lot of the players that have rejected us or whatever, I'm not that sad that they didn't come in. I'm more sad that players that we could have used and done well for us haven't come in. Let's see. Neil Gunner 93 says, not having everything always later. What about her? What about here and now? We can see in the future. I mean, that's what I'm kind of saying, is that everything is always, well, look at the future and this and that. And I can't really see the future right now because what I'm seeing right now is not really adding up to that future becoming so. And so unless we finish in the top 6, the summer window is a joke. We have to finish in the top 6 minimum in order to attract the players that they're saying that they want to attract. And being the Arsenal is not really going to cut it anymore. We see that, especially because we don't have a world-class manager. You can't have the declining club, Adu and Arteta, and think we have to convince people hard to come to Arsenal. And somebody said this the other day, that right now the players that we can convince to come are kind of like the players that we brought in the summer, plus England or English players. And that's so true. The foreign or the players in Europe or in other parts of the world that are top, that are higher than what we brought in the summer, need a lot of convincing to come to Arsenal. And that is not good for our chances in the summer. Let's see. Danny Blaine says our young boys are turning into men quickly. You could see that in December. I mean, the only thing that's good is that they're getting better and they're learning. And hopefully we finish in a good spot because we're going to be trying to negotiate new contracts for these guys, and it would be devastating if we didn't get them to resign. So Tony says the club's responsibility is to balance the now and the future. Yeah, exactly. And right now we're talking a lot about the future, but the now seems ominous and weird, so I do agree with that, but it could just be because we haven't won in a while and this window hasn't went the way that we thought. But I think Saka and Martinelli and all of them will be just fine. It's not them that I'm worried about. I know that they're the future of the club and I know that they're good and I know that they'll hold up their end of the bargain until the end of the season. The players that I'm worried about are the ones that have let us down from the beginning and are the reason why we're sitting where we are right now. And that's Thomas Partey, Granit Xhaka, and Alexander Lacazette. They are the ones that I just don't trust. And so, and aubameyang to a certain extent as well, so those are the players that I'm looking at like, okay, are you going to be able to get us over the line into Europe? It's not going to be Saka and Martinelli's fault that we don't get there. It's going to be theirs, and Arteta. So shape up, the future only matters if the now is sorted, and right now I just don't feel like it. Just incredible. Question for Jess. So if you aren't sad that we missed out on those players, how would you have felt if we had signed them? Would you have been disappointed? I mean, I get what you're saying. Like, well, if you're not sad, because okay, so there were opportunities to improve the squad with players that I would have preferred. Morata, it was not a player that I thought would ever come to Arsenal, and I don't think he's necessarily the answer. So it's not about him not coming in. Vlahovic, am I disappointed? No, because he didn't ever want to come to Arsenal, but would he have improved us? And if he had come in, I wouldn't have been disappointed. I think the idea that we didn't have an opportunity to improve the midfield is bullshit, because Bruno Guimaraes was one of our midfield targets that became available now. And we decided not to do it for whatever reason, because we have other targets in the summer, Tielemans and Ruben Neves. And I'm not convinced that we're going to be able to get those players in if we don't meet our targets now. So that's all I'm saying. I think there were opportunities, like maybe we could have looked at a Donny van der Beek on a loan. There were opportunities, and maybe, there's also the aspect that Man United wouldn't have given him to us because we're like an immediate rival. But there were other options out there that I thought would have been positive. But I get what you're saying. Like, if you didn't want them, then why are you upset that we didn't get them? It's not necessarily about them. We've been linked with a lot of players, some that I like, some that I didn't. But ultimately, we didn't go after them because we have bigger targets in the summer that we are going to get. And I think that's a big risk. Okay, so you guys, I do have to pop off really quick. But make sure you guys like the video and subscribe to the channel as well. I really do appreciate you guys being here for me. This made me feel kind of a little bit better. I will be on BBC 5 Live in about 10 minutes or so. And then at 11 o'clock my time and 7 p.m. UK time, I'll be on Arsenal Vision. So I will see you guys then. Make sure, again, like the video, subscribe to the channel, share this with a friend, and I will see you. If I don't see you guys later, I'll see you guys tomorrow for a review of a transfer window where we did nothing. Really enjoyed the talk, you guys, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye, y'all.